Welcome to MSP Unplugged, Tech Talk with Cramer Snuggs over at Cascade Technologies. I'm your host, Paco LeBron. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it is managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Let me go ahead and introduce my guest for today. We have, as I mentioned in the title, Cramer Snuggs over at Cascade Technologies. Cramer, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you coming out. But before we jump in, I actually lied. I told Cramer before the show that we didn't have a call to action today, but we do. So as everyone know, we just finished our great event, TechCon Unplugged, over in the middle of September. We actually, fun-filled event. It was a great time. Cramer was there, and lots of information to be learned. However, we did go ahead and send out a newsletter to all of the ticket attendees. So if you have the chance, we have two things if you can ask. One, if you can go ahead and fill out that survey, it's allowing us to understand not only what we can do better at the actual event, and two, we're actually debating on where we're going to have it next. We got a lot of great response when we held it in 2019 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We had a lot of great response here that when we held it in Chicago. So both are kind of interchangeably. We've heard pros and cons on both. So the survey will help us understand, should we head back to Grand Rapids or have it again here in Chicago in September of 2022. So if you could do us that favor, we're going to probably close it out here in about a week or so, next Wednesday. So if you can go ahead and fill that out for us, we would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you have purchased a ticket, please go ahead and reach out to John or Jeff at john@mspunplugged.com or jeff at mspunplugged.com. If you purchased a ticket, you do get a year entrance into the private Facebook group. If you are not in there just yet, feel free to reach out and we will make sure to add you there. All right. So awesome. Thank you again, Cramer, for coming out and joining us today. We actually met at TechCon Unplugged. You were actually talking with a lot of us, really going into how your experience in your IT business. But why don't you kind of give me a little bit more information on, how you came up with your company name, where you're located, and how many years you've been in business?
So it's funny. There's no real meaning behind the name, actually. So when we were naming Cascade, we were looking for something that had a word that basically had SC in the middle that we could kind of highlight. We're based out of South Carolina. And so after very minimal research, I ran across the word Cascade, and it just seemed like it flowed. So that was it. We've been in business for a little over 4 years now. We're primarily based out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We work in multiple states here in the United States, as well as we do some international work. We've got a little bit of business going on in Brazil. So we're a small team, but we're really passionate about what we do, and we try to give it our all on every project. So at the end of the day, we're all really fortunate, given it was tough running or having a still kind of young MSP in the middle of COVID, but
Sure.
we're very fortunate to have made it through and still be kicking it today.
No, I mean, I think it's a lot of great information and just things you just said that I can kind of break out too, where, similar, we were running it for probably close to 6-7 years, and it was just me. It was just an IT business owner transitioning from computer repair to being a full-fledged MSP, offering managed services, and then COVID hit, right? And being a small IT business, it caused so many big growth problems for me. So, rapidly I had to expand from 1 to 5 employees, hire contractors to kind of get it all stuff. But again, me being by myself, like running a business is one thing, handling people is a whole nother, right? Yeah. And just trying to understand and break that. So especially during COVID, because obviously everyone had to be remote. So you had to figure out how that was going to flow and create that same efficiencies. Whereas my experience as a help desk manager in corporate America way back when, we were all in the same room. We can understand each other's cues. We can help each other if we heard, a bad call going through or happening as we hear it, so definitely some interesting obstacles as we kind of were just trying to figure all that piece out, especially during the last 18 months.
Yeah. And like prior to COVID, we were doing managed services for sure, and that was nice. But like our bread and butter was really like low voltage work, going in and doing, cabling buildings, putting in network racks, doing like pretty much overnight overhauls of businesses, and having them back up and running by the next day. And we did really clean work, but yeah, it was definitely our bread and butter. When COVID hit, like we didn't want to go on site at the beginning, and I don't think anybody wanted us to come on site, and so we had to make some decisions on like the direction that the company was going to go in, and so we really beefed up our managed services. During that time, we made a transition into more of like a managed security services provider, and really built out our security stack, and it worked. We saw a huge increase in MRR, and we today we really don't really do much low voltage work, I guess, anymore. We do when we need to, but we don't necessarily advertise like, hey, we want to come and spend the night working in your building. And it's a whole different kind of flow of business now than what it was prior to COVID.
It's funny you say that, because for me, HE double hockey sticks, I will not touch low voltage work to save my life. I had one freak accident that happened where they actually came, and everyone has heard the story before, where we were in a closet. We were trying to run the cable through because the electricians ran the cable, but we had to terminate the ends because they didn't terminate the ends. And at that time, I'm trying to terminate all these damn ends, and like I hate doing it with a passion. Was there, a 30-minute job turned out to be a 6-hour job from all of the ends that we had to terminate and set up the networking equipment. And so they were doing construction still at the same time. And coincidentally, that client is doing the expansion as we speak this month, so we got to set up their second office. But there were construction or whatever, and then I don't know if you know those the door saws where they had to put the holes for the locks and stuff. Oh, yeah. So they actually ended up in the closet where all that was. They stacked up the saw, whatever you call them, drill bits or whatever the case may be, like a hibachi grill onions, like if you know how when they stack it up. So, and then they had all these chisels there, whatever. Anyway, long story short, I slip on something, and then I'm going back, and I see the chisels coming up, and I was like, oh no. So I put my hand back out. And so I actually slashed my wrist on the actual drill. So now it wasn't as bad. I mean, it was bleeding, but it wasn't that profuse, but it was to a point where that was a really pivotal day for me as well, because not only did I just get so wrapped up in that whole freak accident, but also ended up forgetting my daughter at school. So that was a huge, day where I just said never again. So I outsourced it. That was like one of my big pivotal pieces of just getting that going, and got some good guys. They're taking care of it. But yeah, I mean, like you said, just pivoting and making those slight changes. It's amazing on just some of those small things that you make that have a lot of great growth moving forward. And, same thing what we did, we focused on cloud first, and what we call the holy trinity of sales that I stole from a buddy of mine, Victor Antonio, who does sales training. It's like, what does a small business care about? It's increasing revenue, reducing cost, or expanding their market share. And then what we can do is help reduce that cost and then really make them more efficient, right? So that's kind of what we did during the pandemic too. Really got a lot of great growth and things like that. But kind of going into your main customer type now. I think you mentioned that you're doing a lot of cable work. You were doing a lot of cable, low voltage work before. I assume these are probably hospitality or restaurants that you were probably doing retail. Was that kind of the realm of that, or okay?
Yep. So we when we broke into the market as an MSP, we really tackled restaurants. Being in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We're in a resort town, if you will. A lot of really high volume restaurants that we kind of jumped right into from the get-go. Today, we're not. It's really hard for me to pinpoint like a specific market that we're in, because we're just all over the board. We're still doing a lot of restaurants. We do agriculture, so like we work with farms, doing backhauls and you name it. Manufacturing facilities, just really all over the place. We do doctors' offices, we do dental offices, things like that. So there's really no, as we all know, I mean, every business at this point needs some sort of IT support, security, cybersecurity, and so we don't really pick and choose. We really, we don't advertise. I guess if we advertised, it might be easier to kind of pinpoint a specific market, but most of everything we've done since day one has been word of mouth, one customer telling another customer and so on and so on. So we really don't have a specific market that we try to tackle. As we continue to grow, I think it's going to be very important that we try to hone in on a certain market, but we just haven't had the chance to slow down and look at that, what that is exactly going to be. I do enjoy doing dental offices, especially like new construction, even down to the low voltage. Everything's just so clean. The budget's usually there. Having a need for HIPAA compliance, there's always kind of a back end managed security services package that we can throw in on it. So that's kind of been a good fit for us to this point, but who knows where we'll end up.
Sure. Yeah. John Dubinsky, when he had his IT business MSP called the Maven Group, that was a majority of a good section of his niche was dental and ortho. So, and I would go on a couple ride-alongs, and exactly like you said, like the way that it's set up and what they've invested and really keeping and maintaining that infrastructure definitely is a sweet spot too. But, and I think there's a comment that you made too that really speaks out, is that, we were in such, before the pandemic, we were all in such a big, you got to focus on a niche, you got to focus on, an industry, dial all in, and that's where you're going to get your bread and butter. You're going to figure it out. It's depth, not width. But, during the pandemic, as we're still going through now, we've now realized that diversification really saved a lot of MSPs and IT business owners, because I think, one, managed recurring revenue really saved us, and not being break fix / having outwork to hope to get paid. But two, it was, exactly like you mentioned, like there were multiple industries that were very severely impacted by all this. And a lot of MSPs either have really suffered and were hanging on, and, thankfully they were able to get through it. And then there were those that closed up shop because they just could not withstand that pain per se to kind of deal with that. And it just goes back to, again, what is the right answer? Is it focusing on a niche or the diversification? I think everyone now is starting to lean more toward of kind of not putting all your eggs in one basket. So I think that, from what you're saying and a lot of other IT business owners, whether computer repair shops, hybrids, et cetera, I think it is positive to kind of have an idea of where you want to make your focus, because standardization is great. But when it comes to industry, you don't have to really narrow it down all the way to just that one, because again, you may have that obstacle you may have to go through. But going on kind of more on what we've talked about so far, so you would say that you're more of obviously an MSP, a managed service provider. Do you offer more contract and MRR, monthly recurring revenue type plans? Do you do more project work and bill them on an hourly basis in like chunks? What's your business format right now that you've been doing, or maybe adjusting to do?
So yeah, we're kind of at the tail end of adjusting to make some big changes. So one thing we did, as we took a focus on cybersecurity, we kind of required all of our customers to get onto our security stack, basically. And we've got a handful of customers that, whether people that maybe I've known from the past or, this, that, or the other, that we still do some kind of break fix or project work for. But for the most part, everybody has to be a managed services customer. And from there, we're obviously billing monthly. From there, for those customers, we will do project-based work. So, whatever they need for us to do. But we really came to the conclusion that if we're going to be in your infrastructure, if we're going to be working, if we're going to be putting our name on it, then you really need to have our security stack, because at the end of the day, the liability that comes along with it, I want to control who has access to your network. I don't want to, if Jimmy that works in the kitchen's cousin is, a glorified IT guy, I don't want to put my name on something that he's constantly touching as well, especially when it comes to opening ports on a firewall or this, that, or the other. And so surprisingly, we didn't really lose any customers when we started to enforce that. But that's been our game plan moving forward. Even our smaller customers, we've got some that are, our smallest customer is one head. And so even that account is now on a monthly reoccurring package. And it's been a good fit. We've got way less risk on our end. The customer's got way less risk, and we've truly seen significantly less help desk calls coming in, just by, again, putting our name and managing everything from A to Z for them.
I mean, standardization is just that, right? I mean, It just helps to be able to apply that straight through. And we're going through that right now. We're actually transitioning. So we've gotten rid of all of our residential clients. We stopped taking in new clients, residential clients in 2019. We dropped all of our residential clients this past summer. And now we're in position of converting all of our retainer clients to monthly recurring clients, right? And a majority of our clients are managed service in monthly, but there are still about 12 accounts that we still are trying to kind of convert. And exactly like what you said is, one, you have shadow IT, and you have these guys that are going in and trying to figure out what they're trying to do. And that's a term that we have to kind of explain to our clients. They're like shadow IT. And I think it might have been you that had mentioned, I forgot, there was somebody at the show that was like, when you say shadow IT, someone's going to be like, hell yeah, I want to go ahead and sign up for that. Or maybe it was John. I just remember it was one of those conversations we had where like a lot of these terms that we're like, hey, you got to prevent this. They don't know what the heck that's going on. Yeah. Let's go ahead and give me some of that. Right. And I think that, having that standardization is important because of exactly what you just said. Not only are you trying to protect and prevent and mitigate and really help continue your client's business, but it's the liability and it's the privacy and being able to of your own business. And, and I have this argument all the time with a buddy of mine who does more break fix and stuff like that, where his mentality is like, it's not on me. And I was like, well, yeah, you could say that, but like, you're going to be in a lot of hurt to prove that it's not you. Why not get ahead of that? Right. Yeah. And it's one of those where it's such a huge thing. I mean, this is what keeps me up at night, is just trying to understand, like, all right, all of these clients that don't want to come along for the ride, they're $1,500 for every 10 hours that they purchase from us. It's not worth the whatever 100,000 6-figure incident that they have, which again, I learned that from Matt Lee. Shout out to Matt Lee over at Paco. Incident, not breach. But really understanding that, like, it's not worth it. Like, I don't want to deal with the 100K or whatever, however it could be millions, depending on what that type of situation is of an incident versus that $1,500 that I need right now. Right. It's just not worth it. And if I have to lose some customers over it, then so be it. And I think that's a huge piece to that as well.
So one of the things that we've really, one niche that we have gotten into is we work a lot of breaches. Not like that's where we get a lot of our customers from. Okay. Is they've either had a ransomware attack, they've been a victim of a phishing scam, whatever it may be. We get our clients from that, and we come in and we mediate the situation or remediate the situation and sign them on to make sure that never happens again. It's the easiest sell in the book. Somebody that's already been breached, they already know that they're vulnerable. And so I utilize that for my existing clients. No one wants, you don't want to deal with what the customer whose office I just left is dealing with in this exact moment. You don't want to deal with the Secret Service. You don't want to deal with the FBI. You don't want to deal with a public disclosure that you've been breached. You don't want to be shamed. And it's not even scare tactics. It's real life. It's 2021. This shadow IT thing doesn't work anymore. Your systems need to be monitored. I remember the first ransomware attack that I worked was in 2012 at a college here in Banner Elk, where I'm actually at right now. Okay. I was an IT administrator there, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. Obviously, we didn't pay the ransom. We restored some backups, and we never heard about it again. And that was okay at the time. But now we're at a point where who cares? Like, what's the point of paying the ransom? You pay the ransom, they stay in your system. You pay the ransom, they still disclose your information on the dark web, and so. Right. This shadow IT stuff just really doesn't work anymore. You've got to have a disaster recovery plan. You've got to have a plan in place for if you're breached. You've got to have good, solid backups that are being tested.
Yep.
You've got to have proper monitoring, and that's just something that shadow IT is not only they're not capable of, but that's something that they're not providing. And yes, our cost for our security stack is a little high. I'll be the first one to say so, but there's a reason for that, and what you get in exchange for that is a lot more than just peace of mind.
Sure.
You know, one of the biggest things that I tell our clients is my job is not to promise you that you're not going to get breached. If you get, there's a chance you could get breached. Even if I put our highest end security stack in place, you could still get breached. And if anybody tells you that, you know, oh, well, if you do this, this, and this, like you can't get breached, that's a major red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Preventing you from getting a breach is, you know, 70% of what we're doing. The other 30% is having a plan in place and being ready to jump on it in the event something does take place. And that's key to every one of our clients. I know that when we were in Chicago, one of the things that I focused on was, you know, I've taken a lot of pride over the last few years having worked a lot of breaches, but none of our customers, like active customers, having a breach.
Yeah.
And, you know, the day after Labor Day, one of our largest customers actually did get breached. And the way that we handled that situation, the plan that we had in place, resulted in obviously no ransom being paid, no data being leaked. The business suffered maybe 4 hours of downtime, and that was, you know, while myself, my partner, and the Secret Service was traveling, you know, back to Myrtle Beach. So we just constantly are working on that plan. What happens when something does take place? Something's always going to happen. You know, every business is going to have. The statistics are crazy these days. I don't even follow anymore, but every business at some point is going to have some level of a breach.
Yeah,
that's okay as long as there is a very specific, readily available plan in place to mitigate that.
Sure. No, I definitely understand, and that's like, you just don't know, right? And I think you just get to a point where you just have to, you know, hope for the best and prepare for the worst, right? And really understand that piece. But, you know, why don't we go into your tech stack a little bit, whatever you want to divulge and what you don't want to, but why don't you talk a little bit more about what are you using as for your RMM, AV, and your PSA right now to run your business?
Sure. So one of the things that I always say when this comes up is if I mention it, then I'm happy enough with it that I'll bring it up in discussion. If I don't mention something, it's because I'm not happy with it, or we're currently looking to change something out, you know, this, that, or the other. So
Roger that.
Kind of the main, everything's kind of centered around our Acronis Cyber Protect. We use that very heavily. Every client that does our antivirus, our anti-malware, our URL filtering. We patch through there. We do on-site, off-site backups. What am I missing? Yeah. So we're doing all of that through Acronis Cyber Protect. We've been using Acronis since it was Acronis Cyber Backup. So we've been at it for about 4 years now. We've watched the tremendous growth. We have stopped countless breaches for existing customers with their Active Protect, which is their basically ransomware detection. When something gets encrypted, it reverts back, throws a red flag to us and says, like, hey, something's wrong. That's how we picked up on the breach right after Labor Day. So that's kind of our main center of our stack.
Sure.
Outside of that, we run Cisco Cisco Umbrella for all of our customers for DNS filtering. We do Cisco Duo for 2FA.
Okay.
We use ID Agent, but that's more of a sales tactic. Yes, we use it proactively for like monitoring for our customers, but that's more of a, somebody says, well, hey, I've got nothing to worry about, or
it's a great sales prospecting tool.
Yes, it's a great sales tool. Let's see. For email, I forgot this part. So Acronis just added their advanced email protection. So we run for all of our Office 365 and our G Suites customers. Yes, we have customers running over G Suites.
I'm guilty of that too.
we run all of our email filtering through the advanced email protection that they've got.
Now, would this be something comparable to like a Proofpoint, Mail Protector, something of that nature? Okay.
Yep. Right now, it runs through what is a software called Perception Point. Okay. And we're still kind of green to it.
Sure.
But we've already kind of tried and trued it and see that it works. Their support is phenomenal. So like we had a problem on our first deployment, and I reached out to support. Like one of the VPs of the company reached back to me, and ever since then he's been like my point of contact for any questions that I've got. So that's been a really, really good experience. A great dashboard to kind of monitor everything and see what's going on. I won't disclose our SIM. We're in the process of swapping that out.
Okay.
Our RMM tool, we're using Synchro MSP right now. I was a Level Platforms guy for almost 10 years. Everywhere I worked, we pretty much used Level Platforms, Managed Workplace. We recently dropped that this year and switched over to Synchro. Synchro's great. It's just it's not quite as robust as I would like it. Like with the breach that we saw recently, Level Platforms would have reached out to me and been like, "Hey, you've got hundreds of failed login attempts coming from a domain admin account." But with Synchro, the breach happened when we did our forensics and everything on it. It turned out that for over a week, somebody was trying to brute force domain admin accounts, and we didn't receive like any kind of notifications about that from Synchro. So that was a little disappointing. We're looking to switch that right now. It does do our ticketing. So what we are looking to definitely do in the very near future is switch to Autotask. I've used Autotask a lot in the past, and it just works, you know. It's seamless. I've got no complaints with Autotask. Maybe a little on the pricing, might be a little crazy, but yeah, you know. So we're looking to make a change to that ASAP. Sorry, my laptop came unplugged.
No worries.
But yeah, that's kind of our stack in a nutshell.
No, totally good. And yeah, I've heard, you know, everything from, you know, every tool and every vendor. I think what you highlighted is what is specific and very important is having that support team behind it, right? And really understanding that you have to build that relationship like you've done with Acronis, and really getting that back and forth on a huge of what your core is, right? And yeah, you know, I think that there are, and exactly like you said, you ran through several platforms because you're trying to figure out what's best that fits for you and what you need it as well, right? And that's a big piece where a lot of us need to understand that, you know, it's okay to look, you know, it's okay to understand, because not only do you get to understand what's kind of out there, but then you have also the opportunity to bring it back to your current platform and say, hey, I really want to do this. Are you guys planning to do this? Can I get a way of doing this? Is there a way to automatically do it? Or automate it in a way to be able to do so as well. So I think those are all very big points to understand that, you know, your tech stack, and I think you just said it really well in the beginning, is that whatever it is now doesn't have to be the same 6 months, you know, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. But once you do standardize, try to hold on to it for at least a good part, because you don't want to constantly keep swapping out and switching it back in, because then you're causing yourself some labor. You just kind of have to put your foot in the stand, you know, put your flag in the sand, and just really just understand that this is the line. You can't move forward. We're going to continue with this, go through the growing pains, and then maybe give yourself 6 months, a year. And if it's really that bad, then try and figure it out. So,
and like one thing is like for like ticketing is a prime example. Like every time your customers submit a ticket, you don't want it to be looking in a complete different format, or you know, every 3 months sending them new login invitations for a new, you know, PSA or whatever. You don't want to do that. And so we do try to, when we onboard a new tool or a new piece of software, whatever it may be, we do try to make that commitment to at least 6 months to a year. Try to, you know, even if there's some pains, they're growing pains, we try to get through it, because we don't want to like give off the impression that we're just constantly shifting. Now, with that being said, I'm extremely open to, if we go out and we find another piece of software that can do a better job, or better protect our customers, then we will jump the gun on it. You know, I've been known to be paying for, you know, 2 RMM simultaneously, just because we're under contract with one, but we found another one that works better. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword, but we are constantly evolving and looking for what is going to better protect our customers. And so while I try not to change constantly, I will jump the gun when we find something that's extremely effective.
Sure. And I think it also, even though, yes, it does sound like it's a cost up front, how much efficiency and time are you saving?
Yeah.
And it's going to be less of the two. Like you said, the double-edged sword is what's going to be the worst. I forgot the phrase, but whatever's the better situation to kind of go into, you may actually save more because you're doing it in a more fluid way versus wasting man hours and costing you money too.
Synchro, and one other thing is like synchro is great. I know probably a lot of people listening to this. I know a lot of people in the communities that I'm in on Facebook. I see synchro all the time, and I don't want to put off the vibes that synchro is not good. I just think that we're growing so fast, and like Autotask is really built to, not on like the RMM side of things, but more on like the PSA side of things. It's really built to. I mean, you could have a ton of customers and Autotask would do exactly what you need it to do. And so I think we're just finally reaching that point where we've got to have some of those softwares, some of those tools that are built for a kind of a bigger MSP. And so that's that growing pains that we're finally seeing right now as we just hit our 4-year mark.
Sure. Just so, because I would be unbeknownst to say it. So I have a very close relationship with the synchro guys over there too.
Okay.
And this does come up a lot. And I think this is what we've highlighted to them. And I've kind of been in the forum and that is said, like, once you get to a certain number, there is this saying or concept or what's kind of going is that when you get to a certain point, you can't achieve everything you would like to do. And that's why people have moved off to another platform. There's been other people that have said it. I will say that they do know that they are working on fixing and updating a lot of that, or better educating to understand what's going on, because you could probably get a lot of what's being done may not be in the traditional ways, but maybe in the modern way too. So like you said, great company. I know they are aware that this is a theme that continues to come up. However, they are working on battling. I wouldn't say battling. And again, unofficially for me, I just know that they are working on an ability of making sure that it's the best PSA RMM that they can provide to other MSPs as well.
I've tried so many different RMM platforms, and they're affordable. It works. It works. And it's a great tool. I like I said, we've tried a ton of different RMM platforms internally. They are nowhere near the bottom of that list. They're extremely high up on that list. And as they continue to evolve, and I'm kind of new to synchro. I don't know how long they've been around, but I'm a little newer to them.
Sure.
But as they continue to grow and mature that platform, there's no way saying that we wouldn't come back to look at it in the future, because I've definitely got high hopes for them as they continue to grow.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's and we won't go any more onto it, but I think that's it. Because I think from us, when we were Computer Repair Shop, we were on the Repair Shopper platform, and that's where we lived for like 4 years. And then when Synchro came out in 2017 and added the RMM module to it, it was just an easy transition for me to kind of figure it out. But like you said, as it's a different experience as a solo business owner at the time than it is with a staff, and understanding how do you make that going, and security and logging, and they're locking their stuff down, as it goes along and things like that. But anyway, versus beating the RMM and PSA horse there, but good conversation all around.
Sure.
And I think that one of the pieces is, we've talked about RMM, AV, and tech stack and such. What are your favorite hardware vendors now? Have you standardized on a particular hardware vendor, whether it's for laptops, PC, networking gear? What is kind of your favorites that you want to highlight?
Yeah, that's a good one. So we've kind of standardized on Lenovo desktops and laptops. I'm a big fan of Lenovo for years, so that's kind of the route we've gone there.
Well, the team is out in South Carolina, isn't it? The ThinkPad team? Still the Think team. Yeah. They're still manufacturing them there. Yep.
Yeah. So, and then as far as servers go, we've kind of standardized to HPE. The quality of their products is just impeccable to me, and we've had a great experience with them. So we've standardized there. Networking gear. This is a tough one, but we've. It depends on the client size. A lot of our clients are running over Ubiquity. Obviously not necessarily Ubiquity firewalls. We've kind of left that out of the stack. But like routing and switching, and like APs and things like that, Ubiquiti. As far as the firewall goes, mainly we've been Meraki on the head. Let's see. Yeah.
Very cool.
We played around with some other firewalls, but Meraki has been kind of our. I still don't like the licensing fees that come along with it every year, but it works, and so that's kind of our standardization there.
No, that makes sense. Now, how are you getting this equipment? Like, what are your favorite distributors? Are you going through like Tech Data, Ingram Micro, et cetera? Or are you kind of going through another route, like an Amazon situation? How are you getting this gear for the company?
It's funny, the Amazon situation. I think for like the first couple of weeks that we were in business, I think that like the Amazon route was the way to go. Quickly learned that was not the case, or not the best case scenario. So we go through D&H, and we've been very pleased with them. We've got a good team of folks that we've been able to rely on. Now, as far as the Ubiquiti gear, we go through Double Radius right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. We have, I mean, obviously right now there's a mass shortage of hardware across the board, so we've really kind of struggled to get our hands on hardware. But Double Radius, their team has been fantastic. They'll ping us and say like, "Hey, we've got a truckload of these products coming in. Like, call bids on them now, before they hit the mainstream." And during COVID, they allowed us to still do some sort of pickups and things like that. So it's been, we really appreciate good customer service. Like, if we can get like that's out of our distributors, out of our vendors, like everything. As long as we can get good support and good customer service, like we'll stick with you for, as long as that's the case.
Sure. As far as and that's doubleradius.com, right?
That is doubleradius.com, I believe. Yes.
Cool. Now I know you mentioned you do obviously some project work and some break fix here and there, whatnot. What are some favorite tools that you all use specifically to hardware tools, software tools, ranging from favorite set of screwdrivers to like a Net Ally Sprinter 300? Like, what are some cool things that you like that really help you on a day-to-day or when you're doing some of these things as well, outside of what we've talked about?
Yep. So you said something about the Net Ally. I love my Net Ally. One distributor that I failed to mention is Cable and Connections, based out of Columbia, South Carolina. We get all of our low voltage supplies from them. They've been a great team. They actually sent me a Net Ally for free, and it stays with me everywhere I go. So that's a nice one, just for like quick troubleshooting to see if it's, what kind of issues we're running into on maybe a port. We stick to pretty much all vertical cable when it comes to our low voltage work. So I remember back in the day having to use like a punch down tool to put a keystone on, or this, that, or the other. We now use the vertical cable like quick tool, I guess. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's for like the keystones. And that's been now we're in a closet with 50 or 100 cables, and we've cut the time in like a quarter or less to punch down everything on the keystone blocks. And so that's a great tool. Of course, we use the slim runs from
Monoprice.
Yeah. Well, we started with the Monoprice. Vertical Cables got them. We found a super cheaper price, through them. I won't say too much, but yeah. So we always use the slim runs on everything.
Yep.
As far as, so I'm not as much in the out in the field working with like our tools as much anymore. So I should have asked a couple other people on that
no worries.
before the show, but yeah, kind of a mixture of things.
No, that works. So we got a couple questions on our Synchro and RMM talk here. Let me pull up Ray Orsini over at OIT. I'm sorry, Ray. I know I've seen your the VoIP company, OIT VoIP. But Ray had a question on, have you used the Acronis RMM? And I wasn't sure if Acronis had an RMM or if there's something that was similar to kind of being a point to an RMM.
So right now, Acronis I don't think can be considered an RMM in my opinion, and there's like really one main reason. Well, there's two main reasons, I guess I would say that. The lack of automation, and at least from my opinion, the lack of like unattended remote access. So we can remote in like RDP from Acronis into any of our machines that we have, but we cannot unattended remote into like our client machine. So I know that. Let me rephrase that. I think there's a roadmap for automation and a lot of other things that like maybe even ticketing, you know, as they continue to add some of these features, I think that we can point more towards an RMM platform. But I think right now it's a little immature to say that it's like an RMM platform.
Sounds good. And yes, Ray Orsini's over at OIT VoIP.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Now
those guys
I
are
know,
legends.
yeah,
I know
for
Sean
sure.
really well, Sean Lardo, and yeah, those guys are really awesome.
If you haven't checked out their YouTube channel, I think Ray had a great interview with I forgot his name now, but he was over on explaining on how to practical Intune / endpoint manager development and like how to implement that as a user. Great video. He got a lot of great content over there too. So really cool for, if you guys check him out. I know he does give a lot to the community. So just give him a quick shout out for that. He also asked, along with John Reed, on kind of what were your difficulties or what was your limitations with Synchro. I think specifically, really understanding on like what were the growing pains, like what was it that you felt that wasn't really hitting home. And then I think not only will this be constructive for those to listen, but also I think it would be great for the Synchro guys to hear too, so that way, in case there is a way to do whatever it is, or you know what specifically it is, they can help communicate that too. So and you can say, you know what, I'm really not comfortable answering that question too, and that's fine too.
I owe a lot to Synchro because we've used them for a little while now, and it really is a great product. So I don't want this to be like me bashing them in any way, shape, or form. But one of the things is, as we've grown, like timesheet management, Autotask was really good with that. It's a little lacking on that side, in my opinion. The other thing really would be, as we've seen some of these breaches or potential breaches, and just kind of a lack of alerting on some of the things that we had like grown accustomed to. Like I mentioned with level platforms, we would get an alert that multiple failed attempts at a domain admin login, and that'd be a red flag right off the gate. So I think I'm really looking for a little more high level alerting on some of those things. Those are my two biggest qualms, I guess, with them.
Sure.
But again, you can't beat the pricing for Synchro, and I think that was one of the reasons that we originally even went with them, or even really put a lot of interest into them, was because compared to what we were paying for our existing MS or our existing RMM tool, it was extremely high. So, or it was extremely low compared to that one. So, yeah, those are my really only flaws, I guess, at this point with Synchro.
No, I mean, we all could say software is easy, right? And I think that, there's a lot more smarter people than me that know how to develop that too. But I think open conversations are great. I think this is an opportunity for everyone to kind of just discuss on what they're using. And I think this is an opportunity to really highlight some of the things that are out there, and, really understanding like what is it, because I think that, again, as I mentioned, a lot of people will say that they're growing and leaving, but they don't really have the time to explain. And I think you just did it really well. Time management, alerting, those are big focuses for you. And that's what you're trying to find a solution to help run your business. So definitely makes sense. Cool. As far as, why don't we switch it over a little bit to, maybe a little bit of marketing, where we've talked about, you've done it's really word of mouth. This has helped gain a lot of success there. Has there been anything that you've tried in the past that really worked well that doesn't work now, / if it doesn't work, any lessons learned. And the reason why I ask it in that way is I know that we have a lot of people that will try to, at least IT business owners, had a lot of great influence in a certain way up until the pandemic happened, and then they had to adjust and pivot and go from there. The other piece to that as well is I think the lessons are even more important to understand, like, hey, this did work and we were making a lot of great traction on this. However, because of this, we learned that this wasn't the case. Or maybe there's some marketing efforts you did and just wasn't worth your time. Why don't you just maybe highlight one of those things if you can on what may have worked in the past, or something that you did try and didn't work, and what was that lesson learned?
Yeah. So I'll pinpoint one that didn't work, and I'll pinpoint one that did work. So the one that did not work was throwing money behind like Facebook ads. And we tried that like really early on. Obviously that was a total flop for us, at least. It might work for some people. But we really, going business to business is extremely tough to try to throw money behind targeted ads, I guess, on Facebook. So that's one that didn't work. And something that, and actually I'll tell you two quick things that did work. One that did work is Instagram. So we really put a lot of time into our Instagram page, sharing a lot of our work. We've landed some of our largest clients to date over Instagram. And we're not as active on Instagram anymore, but we're still there. We got what I would consider, somewhat of a decent following, and we do share things from time to time still. So that's good. The other thing that really worked for us was living in Myrtle Beach. Hurricanes come in a lot, and so one of the first years we were in business, we forward faced a security camera on a pier to show the hurricane coming in, and that got picked up by the Weather Channel. And so what we did was we branded the camera with our logo.
Nice.
So that as it was being shown on the Weather Channel, people would see our logo, and it worked. I mean, like some of my partners out of California were calling me like, "Hey, dude, I just saw your camera on the Weather Channel," and that was cool. They ended up inviting us down to their headquarters in Atlanta, gave us a full tour, and if another hurricane was to come through, we would certainly. I've got all the right point of contacts to very quickly get a camera with our logo thrown on it, up on the Weather Channel. So we drove a lot of word of mouth over Facebook with just having that camera. I think one of the most recent, or one of the hurricanes we did, I think over like a 24-hour period, we saw like over almost 50,000 streams on the camera. And so that's a lot of people seeing our logo.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are Instagram, and just, being creative with things like our cameras, forward facing them and stuff, have been a good fit for us.
And that was a totally internal thing. Like, you didn't hire that out. You didn't get any feedback or consultant to help you started it, and you kind of did it. That's all 100% homegrown.
The cameras or the Instagram?
The Instagram, sorry.
Oh no, I drew that myself.
Okay.
I mean, and again, we probably got like between 3,000 and 4,000 followers, so it's not like we're certainly no influencer or anything like that. But they are quality accounts. We don't have like a bunch of fake people following us, and the amount of business that we've turned from our Instagram page has been extremely surprising for me. I started it just as a way to kind of display our work and keep an archive of some of the work that we've done, and never did I expect that we would get a large customer. One of our largest customers to date came from Instagram. So
very cool. Why don't we talk a little bit about, really quick on what was probably maybe a pivotal or one of your biggest mistakes or lessons learned with the business that you would have changed early on versus where you're at today?
That's a good one.
Or is there a thing you did in your business that made a great improvement that helped you shift?
Early on, we just were adamant that we needed another head, like another technician. And I don't think we properly vetted them. The two first technicians that we really hired, I don't know that we necessarily vetted them out all the way, or it just, we ended up wasting a lot of money hiring not good talent, I guess I would say. And looking back on it, I mean, at the time, we really didn't even need any help. You know, there's nothing wrong with being you can be a small company, but still be powerful, you know, and I think early on I was like, well, we have to have another head because, you know, two of us is not enough to look legit or whatever it may be. And that's just not the case. So we made that mistake early on, hiring, you know, wasting money hiring heads that didn't have the talent or didn't have the drive to do what we needed to do. That was probably our biggest mistake. The other big mistake early on was thinking that it was okay to bring on like these break fix clients where, you know, somehow one thing led to a next, and maybe we weren't billing enough for a project that we did for them. And so once I realized how easy it really is to bring them on as like a monthly reoccurring customer, the business just, I mean, skyrocketed. And so I think that was a big mistake from the get-go, just thinking, oh, okay, as long as we are getting business, then that's okay. But what I really should have been focusing on was getting quality business. Like I would rather have one quality customer than 3 customers that, you know, moan and groan about their bills or don't want to pay or, you know, are causing us massive headaches. And so finding the right quality customers would have helped from the get-go.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't agree more than, again, quality customers are really what you want, is where it's at. And I think it's a big piece of understanding that, yeah, we've all been there. You know, we have to get the money to survive and scratch and claw. But once you get to that point and you have the ability to do so, you know, weeding out, you know, again, it's like the pumpkin plan, Mike Michalowicz, you know, get rid of the bad pumpkins, get the good ones, and kind of keep on trucking on there. So, all right, cool. We're going to take a quick break. Gather any last thoughts if you have anything to share here. But for those that would like to support the show, go to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. We want to thank our newest Patreon supporters, Alexander Wirt and Martins Jonas. I also want to thank those that are continuously supporting us. We appreciate all those that do. And also, if you can go ahead and leave us a review over on your favorite podcatcher. We are on Amazon Music, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Feel free to go ahead and hit it there. Give us a rate. We would appreciate that because it'll help us get found by other like-minded IT business owners like yourself. All right, Cramer. Holy cow. It's already almost at the top of the hour, and I think we can kind of go more. You know, and I think that was one of the real reasons I wanted to make sure that we reached out to you. And I think you've reached out to us a couple of times too, to get you on the show. It's because we just had that great rapport. We had a great conversation and just that discussion. You know, before we kind of just sign off, is there anything that you'd like to kind of just let the listeners know, or anything from what we've talked about today?
Well, first of all, thank you a lot, you know, to all of you for having me on. And you're right. The rapport in Chicago was awesome. We had great conversations. You know, I think we spoke for quite some time on a recent ransomware, and I think we could have gone for a long time. So yeah, that was great. Thanks again for having us on. You know, I think the biggest thing as far as to the listeners is a lot of my success comes from working with other people in the community and truly building that bond that, you know, there's enough business out here for all of us, and like we don't have to be competitors if we work together. You know, we can make a much bigger impact not only on our customers but on the entire IT and MSP you know, industry and community. And so I'm a part of quite a few different communities. I'm glad to be a part of every one of them, and you know, it's nice to be able to have a group of people to fall back on when we have an issue or a question, whether it be technical or, you know, in the realm of running a business. And so I'm glad to be a part of this with each and every one of you, and I definitely look forward to continuing to be more active in the MSP Unplugged group.
No, I appreciate it. We, again, appreciate everything you've done. And I think what you've mentioned the most is, you know, community. And I think we're a big proponent of that, where, you know, you really need the community to really figure that piece out, and really understanding that you don't know everything. right?
Yeah.
And there are other guys that may know certain pieces that you can help contribute to their journey and their goal, whether it's a journey topic, whether it's a specific technical topic. I think all in all, it's just really great to have a community to lean on. And that's why we love doing this from MSP Unplugged, some of the other communities that we're involved with as well. Really greatly appreciate it. Cramer, if anyone wanted to go ahead just to know a little bit more about you, pick your brain, kind of see what you're up to, what's the best place that they can go ahead and find you?
The two best places to find me would be either on Instagram, Cascade Tech USA. I run that page still myself, so if you hop on there, follow us, shoot me a message. I'd be the one to respond to you. The other one I'm really active on would be LinkedIn, Cramer Snuggs. You can find me on there. I try to keep what I got going on in the community and in the channel and just everything all along kind of updated in there. So Instagram and LinkedIn is probably the two best ways to get a hold of me. I don't know if my email address is kind of long, but if maybe we'll drop it in the notes here or something. If you want to shoot me an email, I'd love to catch up with any of you or get to know some of you more.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll definitely have your information in the show notes there. Okay. Again, appreciate everyone coming out today and listening to the show. Couple things. If you are craving for an event, we have a few that are still available. We have our friends over at Channel Pro Network that are having their Channel Pro conference event on October 7th in Raleigh, North Carolina. We will make sure to have those notes or that link in the show notes here as well. We also have Acronis. They're having their CyberFit Summit over in October 25th to the 27th in Miami. I am working to try and be there. Cramer, I believe you'll be there as well.
I will be at the summit, the Acronis Summit, and as soon as I hang up on this call, I'm hopping in the car. I'm headed to Raleigh for the Channel Pro event. So I'll be at both of those events. Would love to catch up with any of you. The one in Miami, the Acronis Summit, should be a fantastic event. Acronis does that annually, and it's down in sunny Miami Beach. A lot of really great speakers coming on. I actually will be one of the speakers at the event, and very cool. So definitely look forward to seeing any of you that might show.
Awesome. And then also Channel Futures is having their event over in Vegas. That's November 1st to the 4th. And all great events if you're looking and itching to find an in-person event. Come join us every Tuesday at noon Eastern. Watch live and hang out in the chat room over at youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Subscribe and hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. Feel free to also use your favorite podcasting app to take us wherever you go. Again, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on Amazon Music for a few places to find us. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.